Hey everybody, it's Emily bringing you another Grass River microclass. So today what I wanted to focus on is something that a lot of people don't know about. It's kind of like one of those secrets out there in nature. But once I tell you about it, you're going to see them everywhere. And that thing is a gall, G-A-L-L, and what they are is they're abnormal growths on plants caused by either insects or mites, and sometimes things like fungus and bacteria and nematodes, but usually insects and mites. And what happens is the insect or the mite will lay an egg, or sometimes several eggs, in a growing part of the plant in the spring. So like in a twig or in a leaf bud or on the leaves actually. And either the eggs or some chemical secretion that accompanies the eggs or the burrowing larva once the eggs hatch cause the plant to kind of grow in a really abnormal way. And usually it's like a big bump, like a growth. It's almost like an allergic reaction. And the insect knows that the plant is going to do this, and so it uses that to its advantage. So these galls act like little nurseries where the larva can grow. And it's a great shelter, but also oftentimes it's a food source. And what's neat about galls is that each insect has a very specific plant species that it lays its eggs on and forms galls on in a very specific place. Like each insect has a very specific shape of gall that it makes in a very specific spot, like a goldenrod stem or a witch hazel leaf or even like a witch hazel leaf vein, so very specific. So today we're gonna check out some of the more common galls that we see around Grass River, and then I invite you to go see what kind of galls you can find on your nature walks. So let's go see what we can find on the Sedge Meadow Trail.
Here's a good one. Here is the alder bead gall. And as you might guess, it grows on alders. We have speckled alders here. And you can see that it's just kind of, there's lots of them. They're tiny little bumps scattered all over the leaf surface, mostly the upper, but they project also kind of down into the bottom of the leaf as well. And they start out kind of shiny yellow, and then they turn kind of to green and then to red sort of at the end of the season. So there's a progression there, and you can find these anytime that alders are in leaf. And I guess I should say that these are created by a very specific type of mite. Like I said, every species has its own type of, or every gall producing species has its own very distinctive gall. So this is produced by a type of gall mite called, it doesn't really have a common name, but the scientific name is Erophies laevis. And again, mites are not insects. They are arachnids, so they're closely related to spiders. They have 8 legs and that sort of thing. But yeah, this is caused by that mite, and you rarely ever see the mite, but you see these galls a lot. Okay, so this is a type of goldenrod gall. And normally when I find goldenrod galls, I find the goldenrod ball galls, so they have like a big circular growth right here at the top of the stem. But I didn't find one of those today, but what I found instead was a goldenrod bunch gall. And what happens here is a species of midge in the Rhopalomia genus, that's kind of a mouthful, lays an egg in the topmost leaf bud here. And so what happens is that the stem stops growing, but the leaves continue to grow, so they form this really dense pack of leaves, like this rosette right here, and that's where the egg hatches and the larva is developing in there, and the larva uses that, of course, as shelter, but also as food. And so the larva will emerge in the fall as a fully formed adult. All right, so we've looked at galls that were on the surface of leaves, and we've looked at galls that were in leaf buds. Now let's look at a gall that is on the terminal ends of twigs, so the fast-growing twigs at the end of branches. This is a willow pine cone gall. Looks like a pine cone. It's on willow, obviously, and it's formed by a type of midge, so a small fly in the Rhabdophaga genus. And what this gall does is induces the willow to basically have really intense growth right at the terminal ends of the branches. So there's a larva in there just developing. And then I also was able to find last year's gall. There's lots of them on this tree, but this is one of last year's right here. And you can see that it's, you know, in a little bit of rough shape. It's got, whoops, there it goes. It's got a hole in it, but this year's does not have a hole in it yet because the hole will only be made when the insect chews itself out as an adult after overwintering in its cozy little gall chamber.
Thanks for joining me on this Grass River microclass where we learned about galls. And if you knew about galls before, hopefully you learned a little bit of something you didn't know. And if you didn't know about galls before, hopefully I have clued you into a whole new world happening right in front of you. So enjoy this beautiful late summer weather, everybody, and I will see you next week. Bye.